What's up everybody and welcome back to the channel. Diablo 4 Season 2 has got me fully invested in the game again. I didn't really know that it was going to bring me back this hard, and people keep asking me if I'm back, and up until now I haven't really had an answer. But now, yeah, I'm thinking I'm back. Now, truth be told, one of the main reasons why I've been enjoying Season 2 so much is the Sorcerer, more specifically the Chain Lightning Sorcerer. This AoE clearing machine is probably the most fun you can have while wearing clothes.
Nice.
And in today's video, we'll be looking at level 1 to 45 and how to do this most efficiently, picking the right skills, vampire skills, and doing the right activities to get you to 45 and ready to tackle World Tier 3 as soon as possible. With the steps that we're going to be talking about, you'll be able to do this in less than 4 hours. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, then sit on tight.
What?
Sit on tight.
What the fuck is wrong with you?
And let's go. Right, so first things first, Season 2 brought a brand new seasonal activity with it called the Blood Harvest. What this is basically a Helltide Light, which starts all the way in World Tier 1 already and essentially moves around the map hour on the hour, essentially changing from zone to zone, and it allows you to do certain objectives within it, which also give you Tree of Whispers progress and allow you to also accumulate enough of those points to eventually go swap in at the Tree of Whispers as well for those chests. Now, the reason why I'm making a big point about talking about this activity is this is the one thing that we're going to be doing the entire time from level 1 to 45. There's a couple of reasons for this, mainly the fact that this area has a huge amount of density and fantastic drops from those mobs from that density. So you're going to be racking up a huge amount of experience, and you're also going to be, picking up decent gear, which is going to keep you essentially, geared up as you move through it. Now, also, in each one of these zones, you have 3 different objectives, whisper objectives, that spawn every time when a new one starts. You have one that essentially either expects you to destroy some structures or essentially rescue some hostages. You also have one which expects you to kill 2 Bloodseekers. Now, Bloodseekers are essentially enemy player characters that have fallen to the bloodlust, and essentially you'll be fighting barbarians, necromancers, druids, and so on, who will use vampire powers on you, but also actual skills from those classes. So they can be a little bit spicy if you're just getting started. And then last but not least, you'll also usually have like a big objective, like kill 150 of this thing, or 125 of this, or 30 or something like that. Now, if you complete all 3 of these, they're going to give you enough Grim Favors to get you 1 Tree of Whispers turn in as well. So every hour, just by doing these 3 objectives in this area, you will get 1 Tree of Whispers trade in as well. And that's alongside all of the other XP that you're getting inside the area as well. Now, within this area, you also have, for instance, these sanguine altars, which you can go up to and you can deposit some blood lures into, which will just summon more of these Bloodseekers, and that's just going to give you even more XP and gear and things when you kill those. The only other activities you need to be concerning yourself with, instead of sitting in the Blood Harvest from 1 to 45, is fetching yourself a beer to drink from the fridge. What you should also be doing is you should be going to the Zenith dungeon, which sits over here in Fractured Peaks. You need to be doing that dungeon, and you can do it right at the beginning before you start farming Blood Harvest. You need to be doing that dungeon so that you get the recharging aspect, this one that I have on this ring right here, which says that each time when Chain Lightning bounces, you gain some mana back. This is the only aspect you need, because this will alleviate some of the mana issues that this build has at the beginning before you start getting decent gear. So what you do is you go get yourself that aspect, and then every once in a while you imprint this onto a ring, you wear that ring for a while, and when you swap it out for something better, you just throw the aspect back on there. This one aspect will make quite a bit of difference and will actually solve a lot of the strain that you have in terms of like not being able to cast mana, Chain Lightning rather, at the beginning. The other thing that you also need to be doing is, of course, you need to be doing your class quests, so to get your enchantments, because this plays into the build a lot as well. We want both of them, and you can do those at 15 and 30. This factors heavily into the damage profile of the build, so you should absolutely not skip this. But the one for 30, you don't have to do anything special for, you just earn that. So the 15 is basically the one where you go out and you have to do a dungeon, and then basically it's a little bit of extra time, and that's done. Now, if you stay in Blood Harvest, you only do that, you only drink beer from the fridge, you only do your enchantment, and you only go fetch this recharging aspect, you should be able to do this in far less than 4 hours, because my time to do it was about 3 hours and 50 minutes. I did not use a single elixir the entire time, so that would have shaved quite a bit of time off, so you should absolutely do that. And I also had an 8-week-old baby that I was feeding while I was doing this, which was kind of like keeping my one hand and possibly the other hand a little bit occupied. So definitely you can do this faster than 4 hours, but that is the bare minimum that you need to invest to get all the way to 45. As for the vampire powers that you're going to be using in your run from 1 to 45, these are the 5 that I suggest that you pick while you do this. You don't have to change these at any time. All 5 of these are available right from the beginning. So technically speaking, there are better options, but these 5 are available right from the beginning without actually having to progress very far into the seasonal storyline, which is the other reason why we also use them. We'll do the seasonal storyline later and then we can pick up those other ones. But for now, Sanguine Brace is really good because this basically just fortifies your HP every time you kill an enemy. You are going to be mass farming, mass AoE farming, so you're going to be killing a lot of stuff. So this is going to be a fantastic way for you to remain basically topped up. Then you also have Domination, which is essentially a mini aspect of control, which is something that sorcerer builds use a lot, and this basically just means you deal more damage to enemies that are stunned, immobilized, frozen, or feared. You cause some of those status effects to the enemies, so this is going to mean more damage for you. The third one you should be trying to use as well is Anticipation. We are using an ultimate with this build, so this just gives you a flat 20% cooldown on the ultimate, which is fantastic, and that just means you have far more uptime on that ultimate. The fourth one is Hemomancy. I don't know, I don't see a lot of people using this. I think people sleep on this for some reason, or maybe I'm just not watching the right people, but I think Hemomancy is fucking ridiculous just due to the fact that it scales so well. You go from 40 to 60% just from level 1 to 2, and this is of your maximum life. It deals to to enemies as physical damage, and it does this every 4 seconds, and oftentimes you'll just see this like shooting stuff off screen, which will then start running towards you, and the very first chain lightning hit them with kills the entire bunch and wipes out the whole group. So Hemomancy is fucking ridiculous, and then put on top of that the little cherry on the cake as well, that it actually gives you a little bit of HP as well, which also helps you with survivability. And then our fifth one here is Infection, and this is just really good DPS, especially for builds that do a lot of damage, AoE damage that shoots around, that's not like focus damage or channel damage. This is just really good. Infection is going to just stack on an additional damage layer for you. Now again, as I mentioned, there are better options here. Hectic is really good, but this only opens up later as you play through the seasonal quest. And Ravenous is also phenomenal, and I believe we also have Metamorphosis, which is also really good. So all 3 of these will probably feature in our build later on, so in the follow-up video when we tackle 46 to 75 or 80 or whatever the fuck, these ones will probably feature in. But for now, these 5 vampire powers are going to be more than enough, and you're going to be fucking ripping your way through the enemies like, basically you're like the opposite of Blade. I don't know.
That was underwhelming.
When it comes to the actual build, the skill tree itself, I'm not going to waste your time in this video going through each one of the choices and everything individually. What I'll do is I'll link the build in d4builds.gg. There's a link in the description of this video right below, and you can go on there, and that's going to show you all of the choices that I made specifically with all the different skills and all of that. It will have the vampire powers on, and if you go to the note tabs here, you'll also see the exact sequence in which you can pick up each one of these skills, all the way up until 58 points used. So if you have some points that you've already farmed out renown or something like that, then you'll of course have access to more points by the time you hit 45. So go ahead and use this guide and pick them up in this order to give yourself the most optimum curve in terms of damage. When we do look at the skill tree, I will just make some call outs here. Of course, we are using Arc Lash. Of course, we are using Chain Lightning. And we are picking up the usual suspects. Teleport, we're using Ice Armor, we're using Frost Nova, we're using. Those are staples for most sorcerer builds because they give us ways of avoiding damage, moving around the battlefield, giving stuff vulnerable, and so on. We are using Unstable Currents because this is basically a way for us to double and in certain cases triple up on damage for the time that Unstable Currents is active, and it's a fantastic ultimate to use as soon as you start engaging like a difficult enemy. This is one of the reasons why this build works so well, because it excels at killing AoE, but at the same time you can switch gears and really burn down one difficult or two difficult targets that have huge HP bars by just utilizing unstable currents in the correct way. Now, the other thing that I just also want to mention is that as I said, with the enchantments, we are using Fireball and we are using Chain Lightning. We pick Fireball for our level 15 one because what that does is every time when we kill something, that thing explodes for a Fireball that does 50% of Fireball's damage. This means that when we are shooting, you know, lightning out and the Chain Lightning kills enemies, that explodes in Fireballs. Hemomancy, all of these things, the vampire skills like Infection can set it off, Hemomancy can set it off. Anytime you get a kill, it sets off this Fireball, and that's what happens when an entire cluster of enemies, you know, sort of charge you. You kill the front ones and it just ripples out through them and essentially kills the entire group. We also use Chain Lightning in our second one here because this means that every time when we spend 100 mana, we just basically get a free Chain Lightning. So that means with a full mana pool, you're getting like 3 casts of Chain Lightning and like a 4th free Chain Lightning, which is just really, really good efficiency and some great damage on top. Last but not least, before I let you go, just some additional quick tips around the currencies that are in effect for Season 2. More specifically, firstly, we have Blood Lures, which is this one over here, and we have Seeker Keys, which is this one over here. Now, both of these you accumulate within this blood area, within the Blood Harvest area here, and you kind of like pick up Blood Lures by just, you know, killing enemies. They'll randomly drop, as well as some of the objectives you can click on and it'll drop a larger bundle of this for you. This is a currency that allows you to summon more blood seekers on the map by interacting with the chalices, as well as the main boss in the middle of the map, which sits over here by this thing. And when you get to this area here, you'll notice there's 3 altars there. These 3 altars each require 50, so 150, and then it'll summon 3 of these bosses, which you again, you know, you can kill them, and basically they drop a huge amount of loot. So it's just really good. You should absolutely farm them. Now, the blood keys, or rather, sorry, the seeker keys, they actually come from killing blood seekers predominantly. You can also pick them up randomly, but you usually get them quite a lot from killing blood seekers, but also from opening seeker chests. So you use seeker keys to open seeker chests, and sometimes you get keys back again and so on. Now, there is a reason to hoard these up until you get to World Tier 3 and World Tier 4, because you keep them all the way. When you switch between world tiers, you keep these. Now, you don't have to be quite as much of a fucking degenerate as I am and keeping as much of this stuff, but the point is, if you have a stack of these keys, for instance, and you get to World Tier 4, you're going to be able to just open up a bunch of these chests, and it's going to dump out a really huge amount of level gated gear that is at your level for you to essentially, you know, start, you know, going into World Tier 4. So it's a fantastic resource for you to keep a little bit of. So obviously nobody needs fucking 87 of these things, but have a few of these ready to go and kind of like keep them as a threshold up until the point when you hit World Tier 4, and then you punch them out. Also, same thing with the Hunter's Acclaim board. The gear related ones here, the unlocks that you get here, are also level dependent. So you can open these up now, or you can keep them until you get to World Tier 4, and in World Tier 4 they will drop at Ancestral or Sacred or something like that level, which will just increase the odds of these being better pieces of gear for you overall as you push to a level 100. And that's it for the video. Thank you so much for watching, especially if you made it this far. This is a series, so expect a follow-up video that will tackle 46 to maybe 70 or 75, and then a last video which will be essentially the end game version, where we will try to figure out exactly which gear combination we need to be able to push to 100 and essentially turn this into a possible farming machine for something like Nightmare Dungeons at high tier levels. Let me know in the comments down below if you've been playing this version of a sorcerer, or which version. I know Ball Lightning is super fucking popular right now. I am going to be building that as well as letting me know things that you would do to improve this build and everything. I always like to crowdsource information and discuss this kind of theory with you guys. It's super awesome. I'll also be looking at other classes during the season. I've just ended up going and picking Sorcerer first. I hope it doesn't end up being the funnest one out of the lot, because that's gonna make exploring the other 4 a little bit more cumbersome. But go ahead and let me know which one you guys would like me to tackle next after the Sorcerer. But other than that, it's just super important to me that you have a fantastic morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world. Till next video, fucking cheers.